We were delighted to be asked to be part of this project, and although I feel I've been on the periphery for a lot of it, a lot of our services have been involved, from the intellectual disability services, and our colleagues in the mental health services of the HSE have been very involved in it as well. And I mean, I had the honour of spending a couple of days at the Blissbury Farm in Donegal Town on different occasions, and I suppose seeing the project at first hand and seeing it working. I spoke to one of our colleagues yesterday who supported some of the people from Letterkenny, one of our services in Letterkenny, who supported them to attend one of the farms. And I have to say, it supported everything that Shane talked about this morning. Certainly her experience of, I suppose, experiencing the individual's experience of the farm was just so hugely positive. And I mean, the one thing that stuck in her head, as I say, as well as everything Shane said, was the health benefits that she saw. And I don't know, is Rose here today? But I think she is here today. But I mean, the one thing Rose said, that I mean, Rose has been working with many of these young people for many years, and she said the one big thing that she saw was the change in their health. She said the energy levels that they got from being outdoors and from working in the outdoors, and she said, you know, even the glow on their faces, everything, because I suppose by and large for many years health services, day services for people, a lot of it was indoors, where people were maybe bused to a service in the morning and they may have been inside a centre, and that may have been them there until 5 o'clock in the evening. So, you know, that's just, I suppose, one, very small thing, as I say, that stuck in my head from my discussion with Rose yesterday. Brian just asked me to say maybe a few words about where we saw this fitting within the health context. And I mean, I suppose, as I said earlier, a lot of our services over the years have been built around block funding services to provide for huge numbers of people within maybe one location. And over the years, I suppose that has developed into a very large amount of funding going into, as I say, specific maybe buildings, big locations and things like that. So a couple of years ago, as part of a HSE review of day services, we looked at all of the day services throughout the country, and we have 25,000 people in day services in the Republic of Ireland, with a huge, I suppose, amount of funding going into that. And one of the, I suppose, things that we looked at is, you know, in consultation with people around what were they doing, what would they like to be doing, and with all of that we came up with, I suppose, a new model of services for the future for day services within the health framework. So I suppose, in terms of, without boring people about health service policy, we are working within the policy framework. We have the National Disability Strategy and the Value for Money and Policy Review, and New Directions is the name of our policy document, which has started implementation now in the South. So the recommended approach, and again, this is after a couple of years of consultation with people with disabilities, of national, international research on best practice in this area, and I suppose the approach that is now policy is that people with disabilities would have a choice of 12 personal support services underpinned by the core values of person-centredness, community inclusion, active citizenship and quality. So what we're saying is that, you know, people, it should all be built around people being supported to do things in their own community. So the 12 supports, just very briefly, are support for making choices and plans, and this is a hugely important one, because what this is saying is that, you know, we need to be asking people what is it they want to do with their day, and not that people come into a centre and stay in that centre for the day and go home at 5 o'clock. So it's about giving people information, giving people choices, and supporting people to plan their day and to support them to do ordinary things in ordinary places during that day. The support for making transition and planning, and this is all about, again, in the past, if people were in a service, they tended to be there for 5, 10, 15, 20, and in many cases we have people 30 years in the same service and doing the same things or similar things day after day. So what this is saying is that people's plans will be reviewed with them on an ongoing basis. So, for example, people may want to be in a farm, for the next 6 months, and they may want to try something different for, the next 6 months, so that we're constantly supporting people to progress, to make transition, to try different things. Support for inclusion in one's own community, and I think that's fairly straightforward. Support for accessing education and formal learning. So again, what we're saying is that things like education, things like employment should be delivered by the agencies, mainstream agencies with responsibility for that. So let it be employment, then it should be the Department of Employment. If it's education, it should be the Department of Education. But that health would support the health-related supports required for people to access that. Support for maximising independence, that again, everything should be geared towards making people as independent as possible. Support for personal and social development, and again, that could be people could be on a farm, for example. Support for health and well-being, and again, that's acknowledging that a lot of people in our services have very high health needs, and a lot of their supports may be around just keeping them well, particularly people with very severe and profound disabilities. Support for accessing bridging programmes to vocational training. Again, that we would be supporting people on an ongoing basis to access that next level, that higher level. The vocational training and work opportunities, hugely contentious within the health services, because again, for years we would have provided things like sheltered workshops, and again, what we're saying is it is not a health service responsibility to be providing employment for people with disabilities. That should be in the mainstream, and we should be supporting, again, the health-related supports to enable people to do that. Support for personal expression and creativity. Again, these are very self-explanatory. Support for having meaningful social roles, so that we support people to be part of their local committees. It could be to support them into local politics. It could be to support them into their Tidy Towns committee, things like that, so that everybody has a right to have a meaningful social role in society. And support for influencing service policy and practice. And again, not that we are deciding what should be done in the disability services, that we should be supporting people with disabilities themselves to be part of the planning and part of the policy. So that's really the whole approach that the health service in the South has started working in. So it's, again, very much with the individual at the centre, community inclusion and active citizenship being the key principles, and everything delivered within the quality framework. I suppose where we're at the minute is that's very much been rolled out. There has been a standard put in place to support the implementation of all of this. I suppose the big, most relevant question for here today is around the whole funding of it. And I have to say it's a minefield, because so much funding has been, in block funding to agencies and to services. New directions, our policy is around individual funding, and it's around that either direct funding or individual packages, so the individual has that money allocated to them and it's their choice where they want to spend it, which obviously is very relevant for social farming going forward. I suppose it's a huge job to unravel all of that funding in the system of where it's at now, and that work is certainly commenced, and is underway. And again, it's a journey, as any of you can imagine, the complexities of all of that. But certainly I can say the policy is along that line. So we're just, as I say, delighted to be part of the SOFAB project. We look forward to working with you, I suppose, into the future, and with obviously other departments as well, because I think if this is to happen, it's not for any one body or any one department. It has to be a whole cross-departmental, cross-agency remit for this to happen. So again, look forward to the rest of the day and to hearing more about plans for the future. Thank you.